There was a point in time that I felt insecure about my art form, about hip hop and about rapping. I began to develop some kind of, I don't know, inferiority complex, I guess. I felt that my music, hip hop, was inferior to other music forms, mainly because it lacked progression from a musical stance. It was a loop, you know? Maybe it had one or two change ups, but it was a very, we know what a beat consists of. More, there was no real validity to it, but what it was my weakness. You see, we all are plagued by some kind of doubt. And the lesser version of ourselves is trying to validate that doubt. Let me give you an example. You know that if you could have 100 positive comments on a post, right? On a piece of work you did. Thank you, get used to it. Thank you, I appreciate it. You do appreciate it. But then you have the one negative comment. And it hits more than the positive comment. Well, why is that? Why does it hit us more? It hits more because it's touching something that already exists within you. You, on some level or another, you believe the sentiment on some level or another, the negative sentiment about you. Otherwise, it would not affect you. When it doesn't affect you whatsoever, you do not believe in it. But if you find yourself compelled to respond to the negative comment, it's hitting something in you. This self-doubt will present itself it can come in any form. And a truly intellectual mind can dissect and intellectualize everything into a complete oblivion, where you could be so completely subjective, or you can remove yourself from anything and dissect it to a point where it's like, well, why do words matter? Why is rapping, what? It reminds me of a story. Now, I'm all over the place, I know. But this ain't, this is this shit ain't scripted. I'm going to tell you about my acid trip. On the 7th time I took acid, we couldn't get it. I'm going to go back to what I promised. It'll all come back around. But we couldn't find acid. So there was somebody in the neighborhood. He was called Doug the hippie. Now everybody liked Doug. In Fort Hamilton High School, everything was divided. You had the goth kids, the rock kids, the hip hop kids. Then you had Doug. Doug was loved by all. We could not find any acid. Here Doug comes. It's me, Jason, Ali. They don't rap. They don't. It was us three. So we see Doug. This motherfucker's like a savior. Might as well have had a halo around him. We get mad excited because we know Doug probably got it on him. Has sunshine acid. Because we're so excited to be able to get it, I sucked the living shit out of this goddamn tab. Half hour, nothing's really happening. All of a sudden, this thing hits me like a wave of. It's almost like you ever see in a movie where there becomes an extreme divide and separation where you like. Almost like one of them films where you are all the way down the hall, like, and it shows like now there's like everything is gotten so far away from you. The feeling that I remember feeling was, it would be comparable to, have you ever had a dream where you end up flying, like you're on like some kind of, I don't know, maybe it's a motorcycle, a skateboard, whatever the fuck it is, but you go up a hill and you just go so goddamn far into the sky that you're just like, fuck. Like, this was too, I went too far. Like, how am I going to land? Like, I've had those a lot of times. So that's what it was. It was like, I have gone too far out. I'm too fucking deep in the ocean, and I am not going to be able to get to land anytime soon. For those of you that don't know, an acid trip lasts 8 hours. This was not a nice feeling. How do I get back? How do I get back? The ground is wobbly. The concrete ground is wobbly. The fence is still, but the shadow is moving. My emotions are very extreme. In extreme anger, extreme fear, and ultimately, I don't know how to process language. I am dissecting. The example I was giving you before, as far as intellectualizing things, I forgot what words meant, but yet I can use words to speak. So someone will say, I went to the store, and I'll wait, hold up, store, what's store, wait, hold up, wait, hold up. This is where I was in my head. I was not there. It was not, things are not functioning correctly. We're walking down a block. I've had an extreme burst of energy. I pick something up. I don't know how this turns into the acid story. So be it. Whatever. So I have an extreme burst of energy. I pick something up, and I smash it. Undercover cop, what appears to be an undercover cop, gets out the car. I'm extremely, I'm petrified. He looks in my eyes, and he says, oh, you guys are really, he realizes this ain't, here, these are not three teenagers that are out smoking pot and drinking 40s. This is something different. When you look into the eyes of somebody on a tripping balls, you can see nobody's home. It's a different kind of look. You know it if you've seen it. He sees that. He gets a little nervous. He was off duty. I see the nervousness in him. My fear turns to anger. So I go from petrified, barely able to speak, a little shaky, to, are you a cop? Are you even a cop? My mind was thinking, pick up the glass, stab him. When you're on acid, you're insane. Do you understand that? You are, by definition, insane. You're not in your right mind. I wouldn't recommend it. So, when so he sees my turn, how I my fear becomes aggression or whatever, and he turns up, he puffs his chest out, and I become scared again. So ultimately, what can he really do? He's off duty, like he's not, so he gets back in his car, he leaves. The whole night, I am paranoid that this guy's following us, and I keep seeing his blue car. Eventually, the thing wears off. I end up back to normal. The main point that my previous, what I was saying before, the main thing it reminded me of is the ability to intellectualize everything to the point where you can't just accept it for it's weird. It's like you dissect something to an oblivion. So it's like I would get to these places in my mind where it would be like, well, wait, why is hip hop or rapping equivalent to playing rock music? Like why? And I'd go through these things where I'd have to compare it, and it would be like, okay, well, they got us beat on the instrumental, as far as the actual music goes, but we have more words, we have more substance. Look at what we're doing with our lyrics. We are advanced in that regard, where they are not. They have much less. This is insanity. This is insane. Who does this? What would eventually, and this self-doubt would take many forms. It'll come in the form of questioning what's the word I'm looking for? Legitimacy of your art form, or the quality of it, or where it stands. Well, I'm not sure what the word is, but it'll have you questioning your art form. I suppose it'll have you, and what I would later come to find that what these were symptoms of OCD, but not the physical version of OCD. I didn't feel the need to where it's like, this got to be like that, and that got to be like this, and this, and I don't walk on the crack, now I didn't have that, but I had obsessive thoughts that were always like some kind of, that somehow revolved around me being less or failing, or something of that nature, almost like irrational fears of some kind. And thankfully I don't deal with that anymore. But I think the main thing when it comes to that is it all stems from that self-doubt. We're always looking the lesser version of it. We have a higher version of ourselves, and we have a lower version of ourselves. And when you think about it, to get to the greater version, right? The version of us that is more, how do we do that? Well, we could probably do it by doing more, right? Doesn't that make sense? If we do less, then we end up being the lesser version of ourselves, right? That seems to be that makes sense, right? And it's one thing to make sense of these things because we have minds and we're intellects. It's another thing to actually live by these things. My problem was, I think for a big portion was of my life, is that I'm able to recognize things intellectually, but in many regards, not all, but in many regards, I would fall short of manifesting them through action. So I could have the conversation with somebody who is of it, right, through action. They're of it through action. And they would speak to me and think that I am like them. I'm not like you. I fall short. when it comes to the action aspect. I have not manifested these things in my daily habits, but I understand them on an intellectual level. So the self-doubt is always there, and it's like a virus, and it's looking for something to fucking feed on, to attach itself to. And that's where, like, when you get the negative comment, or you get that, and it affects you like that, it's because the virus that is your self-doubt has found the host. Thankfully now, I don't feel, now I'm like, damn, like, if I don't get some motherfucking hate, like, I'm failing. Like, you know what I'm saying? Like, you have to have hate. And I understand where they're coming from, you know? And it's another thing, this I've also, you know, gotten from Gary Vee, is, you know, where he made a good point where he was like, think about what kind of state you have to be in for you to take your time to put somebody down, and like to write a message under their thing, putting them down. What kind of place do you have to be in? So, but aside from that, it speaks to you yourself, right? The person who's getting the quote unquote hate. You are nobody. You have achieved something, because people only try to knock things down that are up. Nobody tries to knock down what doesn't appear to be anything to them. If it was truly nothing to them, they would not. Why would they bother? You understand? So, unless their misery is just that fucking great. But anyway, I'm gonna wrap up here. Self-doubt. Self-doubt, it plagues us all. The best of us are plagued by self-doubt. It's important to look out for. As I mentioned, I believe I mentioned this, but these videos, it's almost impossible to talk about music and talk about art without getting into these elements of our person and who we are, because these things about us, the mindset, all of this stuff, man, I mean, it has everything to do with how we function and how we operate, and how we ultimately, who we are, what we become, and how we just deal and get through life. This is everything. Well, not everything, but this is a big portion. This is a big part. So, stay conscious of it. All right, I'm done.